So anything tonight that has will not be How's the ballerina? How's your ballerina?
I got a 36-year-old They all close. My son was done she's got a 4-year-old.
And days,
Hour and a half.
what is
Ben is 16.
You're not going to do that.
Robert, a long time ago. No, come on, sit down. And bring the intelligence level of this room.
How you doing? I enjoyed your program the other day.
How you doing? I'm good. Good.
See, I'm from the newspaper here, so I'd be educated. Well, I need to be educated,
Right, can I go to lunch?
Well, I reckon y'all.
Now we all see. Now we all see. I wasn't gonna wait too much longer.
You know?
Can't get your own time, you can get your own time.
Yeah.
By the way, get you going.
How you doing there, Mr. George?
I had lunch with him last week.
30% of the bills that should be there. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 2nd Madison County Board of Commissioners agenda setting and work session. And all good things that's on the agenda. If you would indulge me, we'll stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Hello, Mike.
We didn't lock the door fast enough. All right, for those that want to know or don't care, my name's Derek Doster. I am the Commissioner from District 5 and the Vice Chair, and our Chairman, Todd Higgin, is out of town this evening, so I'll be presiding over the meeting. Right, so we'll start with our agenda. Typically, the Chairman has a Chairman's report, but he did not leave one, so we'll just call that no report and move on to the next one. Second on our agenda tonight is comprehensive plan development and discussions with Northeast Georgia RDC. Eva Kennedy. Eva, you come on up, Miss Eva, and share with us what you want to share with us.
All right, good evening, and thank you for having me. My name's Eva Kennedy. I'm the Director of Planning and Government Services of the Northeast Georgia Region.
Oh, we can't hear.
Oh, is this not, hello?
You need to turn it up.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't work.
Okay.
Maybe you could move up, Mr. Scoggins, because that mic doesn't work.
I was gonna say, I can maybe stand and project, but.
That'd be fine. That's fine. You stand to the side or wherever you don't have to face up.
Okay.
We'll try to talk a little louder. They're having audio problems with that microphone.
So, my name's Eva Kennedy. I'm the Director of Planning and Government Services in the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. And I'm here this evening. First, thank you guys so much for having me. And I wanted to take the opportunity to just give a little overview of what my division at the Regional Commission, the services that we offer to our local governments, and also just do kind of a review of what a comprehensive plan is and what that update process usually looks like. I know that y'all are about to kind of undertake that update process, so I wanted to just kind of go over a little bit of what to expect. So first, again, my division is Planning and Government Services at the Regional Commission. We offer short and long-range planning support to all of the local governments within our 12-county region, which includes Clark and Oconee kind of at the middle, and then the 10 counties that surround that. And we also offer community and economic development support as well. And all of those services we're able to offer at a subsidized fee to local governments because of our state and federal contracts and grants that we receive that help support us providing those services. So, you know, what is a comprehensive plan? I know a lot of y'all may already be familiar with this, but basically it's a long-range planning document that's going to lay out your community's vision, usually looking over the next 20 to 40 years. And it'll define, you know, goals and a vision for the community. Of course, includes, you know, a future land use map or a character area map. And it's also going to lay out a set of activities for the local government to undertake over the next 5 years to work toward achieving that vision. Required elements in every comprehensive plan are going to be a needs and opportunities section, again, that goals and vision. And for everywhere that has zoning, you're going to be required to have that land use, that future land use map. Madison County is a member of MACORT, that MPO, the transportation MPO. So your comprehensive plan is also going to have an element that looks at transportation. And you're going to have that community work program. That's going to contain that short-term work program that lays out, again, those activities that the community wants to see the local government take on over that 5-year period. Finally, Georgia Department of Community Affairs has also started requiring that there's a broadband services element, and that can take the form of its own kind of chapter in the plan, or it can kind of be addressed and included into a number of the other elements of the plan, and they'll accept that well as kind of a broadband service element. There are kind of two main roles that are going to take form during the update process. One are your plan preparers. That entity is going to be the one who does the actual writing and preparing of the document itself. They'll also help develop that map and prepare any kind of GIS data that's related to it. And they'll be the ones helping to facilitate all of the public input and community input that you guys are going to want to involve as part of that process. The other main role is going to be the role of the community. So the steering committee is going to be a key entity involved in that. And I know I've prepared kind of a handout, and there's a whole page, and if anyone's interested, I think there were some offered back there too. So there's a whole page just on community involvement that's going to be part of this comprehensive plan. Because, you know, your plan preparers can bring you all of the data, they can pull kind of all the facts and figures and numbers that you want, but when it comes down to it, what's going to make your comprehensive plan really valuable is community input and feedback from members of your community and key stakeholders saying, this is what we want for our community, this is what we see. Your plan preparers can't do that for you. You know, they're coming from the outside, and they're coming and they need to hear, you know, what everybody wants. So the steering committee is so essential to it. The steering committee, we as plan preparers, when we work on plans, usually recommend that the steering committee is kept relatively small just to keep it kind of a nimble functioning group. If you get too big a group, then it can kind of bog down things when you're trying to move along in terms of, you know, refining the document. So would probably recommend, particularly if y'all are considering taking on this effort as a joint effort, which I know has been discussed, taking on a joint comprehensive planning effort with all of the cities in Madison County, would probably recommend that you shoot for, you know, 15 to 20 person steering committee, and then involve, obviously, again, a variety of public input opportunities and outreach along with that. The steering committee is going to be required to have at least some representatives from the local governing authorities, so that can take the shape of, you know, your board of commissioners, local mayors, local elected officials, but it can also involve, you know, local government staff as well. Definitely important, particularly, you know, having insight from your planning and zoning folks and that sort of thing that have to use this document day to day. You're also required to have a economic development practitioner, at least one on the steering committee. Often there are a number more. That can take the shape of, you know, local business owner, of course, your Chamber of Commerce folks, and just other folks that are involved in economic development efforts in the county. And of course, if it's a joint plan, we'll want representation in cities as well. And so that steering committee, you know, what do they do? Well, throughout the process, they're basically the working group that's working with the plan preparers to get this document refined and put together. They will meet regularly. They will be discussing, you know, the key issues and helping to develop the elements. Starting out, they're also a key group to help the plan preparers when they're figuring out what are going to be the best ways that we can reach the public in your community. You know, what's the best time of day to meet? What's a good day to meet? Do you guys have any events coming up that you get really good attendance at? Can we just set up a table there or some sort of, you know, presence there and collect feedback that way? You know, do folks really read the local paper, or do they prefer Facebook or maybe some of the other, you know, online ways that we can interact with folks? You know, that's a key role of the steering committee too, is just helping to identify kind of the best ways to collect public input, and then on the other side, encouraging the public to participate. You know, you can throw stuff out there, but if folks aren't showing up to meetings, if folks aren't responding to surveys or questionnaires or anything, then, you know, what good is it? So the steering committee is really the body that's getting everybody excited about the process and really kind of steering the entire, you know, project development. There are 2 required public hearings that are going to happen. Generally, your plan preparers will facilitate those. The first is just to introduce the public to, hey, we're doing this, we're going to be updating the comp plan, here's what a comprehensive plan is, here's what that process looks like, and here are the ways that you guys are going to be able to be involved and give feedback on that process. The second public hearing comes at the end, when there is a final draft. Everybody gets a chance to review that final draft. It's put out to the public to take a look at, and that second hearing is the opportunity for everybody to kind of give that final feedback, like, hey, really need to see this, you know, final change. We're not, you know, liking how this is written, that sort of thing. In between then is when all the other community participation happens, and as I mentioned, you know, that can take a variety of forms, be it from public information sessions, public forums, to, you know, online social media campaigns, all of that. There's, you know, quite a spectrum of things that you can use there, and again, the steering committee really comes in handy in figuring out the best ways to approach what would work in Madison County. So, you know, needless to say, as I've just described, the quality of your plan is going to depend a lot on that public input. So I would say, you know, definitely take that seriously, and it's definitely something that, you know, again, the plan is only going to be as good as that public input, really, because it's the meat of that document. So I know I've kind of just thrown out a lot at you guys, but thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come here and just kind of go over that. And, you know, Planning and Government Services, we're here. We do offer that long-range planning support. And again, we are able to offer that at a reduced fee to our local governments, to our qualified local governments, which is part of needing to keep your plan updated, because we receive annual funding through the Department of Community Affairs. You all are also located within the Appalachian region, so we're able to further subsidize that through some of our Appalachian Regional Commission funding that we also receive for these efforts. So I will stop talking. I will take any questions that y'all may have.
I have some, and it relates to the way my mind works on some of the tools I feel like that are needed, are necessary to put this together. And I guess the bottom line is, which of these do you feel that y'all have the expertise to provide for us. And again, the way my mind works, I need a real thorough and accurate assessment of who Madison County is today.
Right.
What the demographics are, what our industry is, what our population is, all of that. So that to me, if we're going anywhere, we got to know where we're starting from. So that would be the first thing. And then the next part of that will be an assessment of what's going on in our adjacent counties and what anticipated impact we can expect from those. So you're talking about population growth, traffic, potential industry changes, needs for those. So again, that's a question of, do y'all have the expertise to provide that information to us as part of the process? Another component of that is, again, in my mind, as growth is coming, different types of growth, what those costs to the county have become. So in other words, for every 1,000 population, there's a cost to the county. So we've got to have some economic information to drive this, and same thing for the industry. What are the costs to the county of doing those? And here's where I feel really, really inadequate. I'm thankful we got Derek here on the board, because when we gather all that information, I'm like anybody sitting here in the audience. What do I do with that information? So do you have the expertise to say, based on all this information, based on who we are, based on what's happening around us, based on the best guess in the crystal ball of where we're going, here are some suggestions that we think that need to be looked into. So again, do you have that, and then do you also have the expertise to morph our decisions into, say, the zoning ordinances or other ordinances that we have in the county, recommendations on how those ordinances may need to be changed to fit what's going on. So again, the way my mind works, those are just some of the beginnings of the questions. So are y'all suited to handle those?
Yeah, so those are great kind of insights, and I would say yes. I have a great team on board right now. We also have an economic resilience coordinator on board now, thanks to CARES Act money that we've received. And basically all he's doing is looking at economics in the region, looking at where each of our counties are, and identifying kind of what those needs are going to be moving forward, to both recover from the effects of COVID-19, but also build resilience moving into the future. And resilience really is exactly what you touch on, being aware of what your surrounding communities are doing, being aware of how that's going to affect your community. So in terms of kind of getting that data and synthesizing that data, we're absolutely well equipped to do that. And in addition, we work on a lot of projects for our individual communities, but another thing that we do is look at the region as a whole. And we work on regional planning. We are actually going to be undertaking the update to our regional plan in the next couple years. And that's kind of our version of our comprehensive plan. So we actually look at all 12 counties in doing that, and kind of where land use patterns are going, and kind of best practices for that. So short answer to your question, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we bring as a regional commission that is really valuable is when you are developing that short-term work program, that community work program that you're kind of touching on, kind of, all right, we're going to go through this whole process, but what do we do with all this information? I get that our community, wants to be here in 15 years, but how do I do that? So we, are very in tune with state and federal funding opportunities that are going to be currently available or coming. So that helps in refining that short-term work program. We can help identify kind of funding sources to help you guys tackle a lot of what can be laid out there. And we also help with zoning stuff. So touching on zoning, okay, what's next? How's the best way to incorporate maybe getting some changes in terms of how our housing develops in the county and that sort of thing. And, is this just going to be a recommendation to maybe take a second look at our existing zoning code, or do we want to maybe move toward more form-based code and start looking at maybe the development of a unified development code, that sort of thing. those would all be tasks that we would capture into the short-term work program. They wouldn't be undertaken as part of the actual comprehensive planning process, because those are just a whole nother beast individually. You know, you wouldn't want to develop like a downtown master plan as part of the comprehensive plan.
Right.
You would basically want to say, hey, that's in our short-term work program, we're going to tackle that in the next 5 years. So absolutely breaking out all of those tasks and giving you guys guidance. I mean, I think that's basically one of the most valuable pieces of the comprehensive plan. Of course, you know, the future land use map or the character area map, whichever you choose, takes a lot of attention and gets a lot of the press sometimes, so to speak. But it's that short-term work program that I think is one of the most valuable parts of that document.
In gathering this information and whatever additional information to be presented to the group, I think it's pretty critical for the public at large to hear that, as opposed to just the steering committee.
Yes.
So in your mind, what would be the best mechanism to make that happen?
To get like to hear about the data
Yeah.
being collected and that sort of thing? Yeah, so we usually will hold at least a couple just public input meetings. So recommend involvement of the steering committee in those meetings, but of course, you know, getting attendance from the broader audience, the broader public. And I usually like to have one of our first, like our kickoff meeting, basically a, you know, presentation, just, hey, here's a snapshot of where your county is right now, include population, demographics, economic data, all that, just kind of, hey, this is where you're at. And it also is an opportunity to hear from the public, hey, you know, I see that this data is saying this, but that's not what we're seeing, you know, and that often will happen too, you know. So, you know, these population projections, for example, hey, this may say that our population is going to grow X amount in 10 years, but we've got, you know, this many permits pulled right now, so there's something wrong. So that's why I do like to have those meetings really early, because it allows for us to immediately be able to identify things that we need to dig in a little more to. Yeah.
Would you be the project manager for Madison County, Ms. Kennedy?
Yes. So I would be the project manager for Madison County. John Devine, our principal planner, would be assisting, because if we do a joint plan, y'all have 6 cities. So I'm going to need a little help with because we would propose that the steering committee basically also form some subcommittees. Those subcommittees would be used to develop each municipal-focused portion, because each municipality is going to need to have their own kind of focused future land use plan or future land use map, and a few other, and their short-term work program, that sort of thing. So John would be helping me kind of, he'll take on the cities, I think, is kind of how we're envisioning it, and then I will be able to lead the county, and we'll work together to make sure that kind of it's a joint planning effort, and then we can branch off and focus county and city level. Those subcommittees will also likely be used, because I know you guys have definitely expressed interest in maybe digging a little deeper into infrastructure planning, potentially economic development, maybe housing. So you see kind of the required elements listed under this what is a comp plan, but sometimes some communities will want additional elements. So that's an option to you guys, and I think having some working subcommittees that come back and report to the steering committee, and then, you know, go from there will be useful, particularly in exploring some of these topics.
So going back to Terry and just what you just said, so if we get into it and we decide that we need to delve into this a little bit more in some area, then we would have the option maybe to bring in somebody else to gather some information if we felt like that for whatever reason we didn't have enough resources to bring that in. Is there?
So I suppose that would be an option. I guess I'm just trying to kind of envision. So
I'm just wondering. I my concern is sort of that we get into this thing, we find out we're trying to pull all this together, but then we don't have enough resources to get it done, you know. So I think early on, we got to plan to make sure we got enough resources to start off with, and we got to really define what we're looking for, like Terry, that's what I outlined here. And I don't want to get into the middle of it and then find out, well, we have opportunities, we really need to investigate this further, but because of lack of resources, we can't do it.
So I could be interpreting this wrong, but I feel like something you guys are touching on is probably what would actually take the shape of something that we capture in your short-term work program. So if we get to a point where, say we're talking about, you know, water and sewer, and we're like, look, you know, it really seems like we need to do sort of an in-depth study that takes a look at the infrastructure we have and then makes recommendations and gives, you know, actual price estimates and all that stuff for what we're going to need 10 years down the line. I would strongly recommend that that level of information be saved for a specific study that's focused on your water and sewer and stormwater infrastructure instead of trying to capture it in the comprehensive plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, but it would be identified and made as a part of something that we need to further investigate, and that
Absolutely.
also made, so we can make it public that that's where we're headed with it.
Yes, absolutely, and that is completely the purpose of that short-term work program. It's literally a list that comes out of your comprehensive plan that says, hey, local leaders, this is what your community wants you guys to tackle over the next 5 years. And they expect you guys to accomplish these. And actually, the other component of your community work program is going to be a report of accomplishment on your previous 5 years short-term work program. So it's both, you know, the opportunity to lay out that new list of things and then to also potentially carry over some things, too, that you weren't able to get to. It's reasonable. Things happen. But, yeah, and so there's, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I guess what we want as much as anything, Ms. Kennedy, is the assurance that, number one, there's going to be milestones or mile markers clearly identified that, you know, until we answer this question, we can't move on. We're not going to broad brush this. In our first meeting, we could have taken the information that was been provided there and put any county's name in it. Right. And that is not what we're looking for. You know, before we go down this path,
yeah.
You know, I want you to know you're going to be dealing with some hard masters here. I mean, there's things that we simply can't continue to do like they've been done in the past. And we don't want to end up like some of our neighboring counties where all of a sudden infrastructure has no chance of ever catching up with growth. So the connection fees and user fees and impact fees are so astronomically high there that people are saying, no, we're not going there. You know, we need to know that now to be prepared. And, you know, just want to make sure that if we go down this road, you're in it for the ride.
Well, I'm in it for the ride. I have participated in the last couple economic development summits here, and I have fully enjoyed and been excited to see the participation and the kind of excitement that's growing in Madison County. It's really great to see. I would be honored to be able to be a part of it, but I say that, you know, I have emphasized or done my best to emphasize the importance of the community input that's going to be involved in this. So, you know, as the plan preparers, if y'all selected us to be the plan preparers, I would also want to know that we have buy-in and the confidence from you all, because, you know, you are by all means welcome to select whatever plan preparers you want. The Regional Commission is here. We want to help you. We're available to help y'all with whatever you need and whatever level of need you want. But, you know, I also want to be in a situation where we have your confidence. I don't think it would be responsible for us to go into an agreement and try and get community buy-in if their elected officials aren't on board. And, I do want to say, I so much appreciate y'all inviting me here to have this conversation, because it shows already that you guys recognize the importance of this plan and this process, and that's miles ahead from so many other communities. So, I hope that your citizens recognize that y'all, recognize the importance of this and appreciate that, so.
You touched on infrastructure as part of a separate study. In my mind, where we are now, infrastructure-wise, is a critical piece of information. Particularly thinking about water and sewer system, we already know that Comer is there at max now. Danielsville essentially is at max. And anyway, there's a lot of those things that, in my mind, we need to have as some of our knowns up front.
Gotcha.
So if that's going to be a separate study, it's got to be, in my mind, got to be first.
I get that, yeah.
That's information that we got to have.
So we do not have any, engineers on staff or anyone like that who could go out and actually assess the system. We will absolutely be happy to work with your local providers. I know Senator Ginn is in the room tonight, and speaking with them and just assessing, where the current infrastructure is, what their future plans are. I mean, I believe all of them should have strategic plans in place. If they don't, then, we can at least begin conversations to say, hey, where are y'all at least looking? But you're also touching, that's absolutely something that in developing your future land use map or your character area map, that's key to having in mind. And that is a very powerful way to control how your county develops moving into the future. Is where are we going to provide sewer? Where are we going to provide water? Where do we maybe want to not do that because it doesn't fiscally make sense? So I completely understand that, and I guess my answer is that we can work together kind of as much as we can, but if it was a study that required some level of engineers' involvement, then that is something that we would probably have to look at other sources to prepare.
And that was sort of what I was trying to get at a little
Okay.
before, is that we may have to have additional resources to provide information. So you agree with that if we want to go into the depth of this.
Yeah, and I try to be a very upfront, honest person, and I do not have a problem with telling people when something is beyond our scope of what we can comfortably do. I would much rather have that honest conversation instead of us attempting to do something that we're not qualified to do. So.
Do you have firms that you partner with to provide that? That can assemble that information in some kind of form that this group and the citizens can digest what they...
So we do not have any sort of engineering firm kind of on retainer, I guess. We can, suggest some firms that other local governments in the region work with, but in terms of, having someone kind of on hand, we do not, unfortunately.
We might have somebody on the board that could help us with that.
Shall go unnamed.
The chairman's being a little quiet. Mr. Chairman, you have any
District
questions?
3 needs to come on quickly. All right. Any other questions for Ms. Ely? Thank you. We know we need some work to do. We need to kind of parse a few things out with ourselves and with our other community interest groups and our other municipalities. So, but thank you for coming and kind of giving probably what should have been done last time, kind of a Kickstarter, and then again, see where we go from there.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for having me.
Thank you.
Very good
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do we have the opportunity to ask her a question?
You can ask me a question.
Okay. She has a picture of the 4 staff members that are going to participate in the North Georgia Planning Commission project. I wanted to know if Ron has the capability of uploading the county, property digest, or not the digest, but the assessment, property assessment, to your computer and then print out maps.
Yeah, so can I?
Because Terry asked 3 times, what's our current status? We don't know what our current status is. We don't know how many chicken houses we got in the county, where they're at. We don't know how many horse farms. We don't know how many cattle farms. In '05, the county, I was on the Board of Commissioners that time, had the capability of GIS. We could print all those maps out in '05, and we did, and they've disappeared. Showed where every chicken house was, where it was over $10,000, where it was under $10,000, every horse farm, every cow farm, every business, every piece of property parcel in the county we could print out and color code it with what it was used for. And we don't have that capability now.
Well, instead of addressing, or my position tonight would be, instead of trying to address every particular question that may be out there or concern that's out there, is let us know, email Rhonda, she can keep a running tally, hopefully of a list of what we need to look at, and we can respond as a board of what the kind of scope of work that we're gonna ask to happen, and make sure that, as Commissioner Kirk said, is that resource available? If it is, then great. If it's not, or is there a better way to do it? And so I think we'll address that as they come in, and make sure what we do, or the best we can, approach all those questions and make sure we get the information that we want. All right. Moving on to the next one. Next thing on the agenda is consider 2021 property casualty insurance policy, and we need to have a vote this evening as part of our activities. Go ahead, tell us what you heard, what you know.
Hey, my name's Dan Horn. I've been with Chastain and Associates since 2000, and before that I was with a firm called Smith Valley Brown, and Smith Valley Brown started handling the county's insurance program in 1981, which was also the year I got out of the University of Georgia after I saw Herschel win a national championship.
Me too.
So anyway, we have had a long-standing and very valued relationship with the county. I think it's one that's built on trust and open communication. For those of you who don't know, you see my name, I get copies of all your minutes. So I read those. If I have any insurance or legal liability or any sort of questions, Mike and I discuss things. So we have, I think, had a very long run of very fortunate of not having too many insurance claims over the last few years. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the coordination of communication we have between all the departments and Mike and myself and the claims department. So in this current year, we had a heads up back in April that our current insurance provider, One Beacon, that we've been with for about a decade, was going to have a pretty substantial rate increase this year. And so we began to work and think about the fact that we needed to have, this was one year which we definitely needed to have some alternatives that were in place. And so we solicited the help of Seville and Associates, which is a public risk specialist broker, and Bob Seville lives here in the county, so he's got a very vested interest in helping us. So we came out with 3 proposals, 2 additional proposals in addition to the one with One Beacon, and Argonaut or Trinent Insurance Company has offered a very competitive price at about $226,000. We may wind up just a little bit below that because with our automobile insurance premium, we don't pay for anything we take off the policy prior to the renewal date in August, and we don't pay for anything we add during the year. So we want to make sure we don't give the insurance company the final list of vehicles until we get into August, so that if we sold something between the time we started the quote process in April, that we get credit for those things that we've sold. So I just got the new updated list today, which had several vehicles coming off of it. So that's gonna be probably reflected in a little bit of a reduction here. But based on what we knew at the time we started this process, you know, it looks like we're saving somewhere in the neighborhood of $38,000 to $40,000 a year by making a change. We've been with TriNet before. We were with them for several years before we went to One Beacon. One of the things I like about them is that they have in the past and have continued to do it in the future, promised to let us have the same good working relationship with their claims department and their legal people with Mike's firm that we've had with One Beacon. That communication where we can get involved at the front end of a claim or a potential claim really allows things to get handled before they get into an arbitration or a judicial court hearing. So that's one of the critical components in choosing. Other than the cost of the program, we want to make sure that we can continue to maintain low claims experience by getting in front of situations. So, you know, with that being said, and with a little bit of reduction in vehicles we had this last week, I think we're going to wind up coming in below what our insurance cost in 2020 wound up being about $225,000, and we're going to be probably a little bit below that this year. So we actually had a slight net decrease. And when you look at a 10-year history, 10 years ago the county was paying roughly $186,000. So we've had very few pure rate increases. We've had some inflationary increases, and of course the digest of the county's grown, and we've insured newer and more expensive vehicles. But I think for a long period of time, we've had good claims experience, good communication, good insurance providers, and we've been able to maintain the insurance cost at a steady rate over the years. So and we did have as my letter indicated, we did have a very detailed meeting a week ago today with myself, Mike Pruitt, Bob Seville, and Chairman Todd. So.
Thank you, Dan. All right. You've heard Mr. Dan's report noting that we shopped it at a relatively zero cost or potential slight decrease in last year's numbers without Todd being here. Mike, just confirmation that the meeting was held and everything is above board?
Absolutely, yeah, we're ready for action.
Thanks, sir. All right. With that said, we'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we proceed with the vote.
As recommended?
Yes, sir.
All right, we got a motion to proceed as recommended with Trident Insurance, as recommended by the chairman, Mike Boswell. Mr. Dan, we got a second. Any further discussion or questions?
I just need to make sure of one thing, and this is a Mike question. In my personal business, I utilize Chastain and Associates as the agent. Dan is not our agent, nor do I deal with any of the companies that we've got listed here.
Right.
Is it okay for me to vote on it?
Yes, if you're not having any financial benefit from how you vote, so it's fine.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thank y'all. We're available anytime you got a question. Pick the phone up, call us. We do appreciate the open lines of communication. We want that to continue.
Appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Now, on our agenda, we have hearing and actions on zoning matters moving forward. We've got 3 items. One has some zoning amendments. I'm going to take the opportunity, Abe, I know you're here probably representing the Oak and Gate property.
Yes, I'm asking for that.
That is not on the agenda tonight, so I just want to make sure that you weren't hanging around or anybody that came for that tonight. so we won't be discussing it this evening.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I
Okay.
understood that.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, tearing things up. First, rezone request is for Alex Lord. He's requesting to rezone 2 acres of his 13.11 acres from A2 to RR. This is so he can sell the 2 acres for a home site. Property is located on 1585 Esco Road on map 68. Let's see, looks like parcel 18 in District 2. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the petition? No one coming forward. Is anybody here to speak in opposition to the application? Being none, we'll close the public hearing for that session of it, and we'll turn it over to the board for a recommendation.
One question I had, we didn't define where that 2 acres is.
I can show you on the map.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Alex,
It's, this little wing right here.
yes, sir.
You're gonna have road
Plenty of
frontage.
road frontage on each property.
Yes, sir.
And is your intent with this stick-built home, or what are you gonna plan to do?
Original plans had intended on a stick-built home. I also have a mobile home on the property now, so kicking back and forth. I guess it depends on what the economy does.
That was one question I had. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of this rezone as presented.
Second. We got a motion and a second to approve the rezone application as presented. Any further question or comment? None?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Matter is approved and closed.
The next rezone request, Mr. Chairman, is for Russell Fogg. He's requesting to rezone his 17.77 acre parcel from A1 to A2 to combine with adjoining properties. Property is located on George Edwards Road on map 68, parcel 86 in District 2. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request also.
All right, is anybody here in favor to speak, want to speak in favor of the application? Anybody here want to speak in opposition to the application? No one coming forward, we'll return it to the board, and the public session of that is closed.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this rezone application as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application as presented. Any further questions or comments? Discussion? Being none, Mr. Brown?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The application is approved. All right, we're moving into several zoning amendments. Can ask, will you go ask them to move outside, or and I'll give you a minute to get back, please, sir.
If you just speak into this mic, Steve hears you.
Steve, and it's too loud in the hall. Quiet down. There you go. You don't have that much pop. Right. Does it work at home? Does it work at home? Nobody answer that one.
I would be careful. with that.
Nobody answer that one, strike that from the minutes. All right.
If your cell phone rings, you probably know.
Yeah. All right, Mr.
You
Lamar.
sure you're an engineer? You have a sense of humor.
Well,
Yeah.
you're right,
You
Mike.
know, probably I had to sign checks next week. Let's do one at a time, please.
Please, yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the first one, section 7.1.2.18, is a conditional use wording for the A1 zone. And we took that one and the third one there, 7.2.2.16, which is the exact same wording, adding a conditional use to A2. We took those up as one vote. And that creates a conditional use for businesses devoted to provisions of agribusiness services, and it lays out examples in there and gives directions for that conditional use. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of these two these two amendments to the ordinances.
I'm sorry.
My wife's texting somebody else.
That wasn't a test, huh?
All right, we've got, zoning amendment, been presented. Will you public hearing on zoning amendments?
Yes.
Okay.
Same
Anybody,
procedure.
anybody want to come forth and speak in favor of the zoning amendment?
I will.
Gary Harvin, 7747 Highway 172, Comer. I'm fine with it. I'm just wondering about, we bought a piece of property that the neighboring property y'all probably well familiar with, had a stack house operation that tried to go in. So I'm fine with agribusiness being in A1 and A2, but is there, how broad is that? So maybe I'm speaking in favor and against, I don't know. So I haven't seen the actual amendment, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Here you go. We tried to define that.
So can y'all read the amendment, are we all here?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do so. Give me just a second.
You gotta make sure he knows all the words.
Probably will mess them up. Right. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Madison County, Georgia. Section 7.1.2.18 is added to the A1 conditional uses to read as follows. Businesses devoted to the provision of agribusiness services such as farm machinery and equipment maintenance, land chemical application, transportation services for agricultural products, cleaning services for facilities used to store or grow agricultural products, and similar businesses. Sale of products is permitted only as incidental to the provision of such agribusiness. The business must be devoted solely to providing agribusiness services to persons or entities engaged in the commercial production of agricultural products. Agricultural products is defined for the purposes hereof as poultry, livestock, crops, and timber.
I'm fine with it.
Thank you. Just in general, two answers to that question. In my mind, the project that you're concerned about would be would be more manufacturing. It would not.
Yeah.
It would not fit. And the other side, just to make sure everybody aware, is a conditional use request has to go through the same public hearing process that a rezone does.
So it would end up being a conditional use on top of the conditional use is what you're saying.
Conditional use
Yeah.
in the current zone.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, anyone like to come forth and oppose the amendment? Seeing none come forward, we'll close the public session of that. Bring it back to the board.
I agree with the chairman, we go ahead, we can handle that first one and the third one as the same item, because it's the same thing, it's just in two different zones.
All right.
So I recommend that we make those changes as presented.
For the use of the public, I will not read the second one. It is just a separate section in the code. It has the exact same language. Is that correct?
This same conditional use could potentially be allowed in A1, and then the other listing would be allowed in A2.
A2.
It's the same word.
I think it's worth stating, Mike, you and zoning and planning have already vetted all of these.
Oh, yes, we wrote it together after, you know, the board had some comments and we tried to capture those.
Yes. I'll second the motion.
So I have a motion to approve both amendments and a second as presented. Mr. Dean?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right.
Okay, just, next amendments. Let's see, deals with section 7.1.1.3, titled poultry houses, and section 7.15 is titled A3, and also section 8.5.1, add A3 to ADU. The Planning and Zoning Board voted to recommend approval of these amendments, but additional information has come forward that we needed to take into consideration. So we got with Chairman and decided to postpone these until we can get that information and get it worked into the amendments. And that was, sir, the 7113 poultry houses and 715A3 and 851 add A3 to ADU.
All right. So we'll just move them to
To be announced.
to be determined.
Postponed indefinitely.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Since it,
has a question? Do you?
hold on a second, please.
Okay.
Procedurally, do we need to take a vote to postpone these, since
We-
they're on the agenda and they were published?
Well, technically no, because you guys don't actually approve the agenda, so you don't have to do anything with it.
That's fine, thank you. Yes, Mr. Conlon?
This question, as far as the public hearing was supposed to be tonight on that particular amendment. Will the public hearing occur tonight or occur after we have looked at it again?
I would suggest that
We'll redo it.
we'd have it at a later date when any additional information is brought forward.
Okay, just wanted to know that will be advertised to the public.
Yeah. I would,
Be my thinking, since it's
Yeah.
changed, if we just.
I would hate for us to take public comment or have the hearing portion of it, something been changed, and then the public not have an opportunity to speak to that.
Yeah, as a matter of zoning procedures law, you know, you could just have the public hearing here. If planning commission wants to do theirs again as well, I mean, I think that's probably up to them, depending on, you know, what the new information is.
Okay. We'll keep those on the postpone to a later date. No public hearing this evening, and we'll expect public hearing at a later date as well. All right, keep us going, Mr. Lamar.
Okay, sir, the next one is, section 11.1, and it's titled variances. It, deletes the previous section 11.1, and the following five pages are put in its place. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this amendment.
All right.
We'll have to take reading next.
I was trying to debate whether I wanted to read that or not. It's lengthy. We will open up the variance, or the public hearing for the variance section, zoning amendment that's been presented. How about I'll ask Mr. Lamar to give a brief synopsis of what?
Have Mike write it.
There you go, all right.
Since I was so nicely asked,
Yeah.
That's
fine.
I'm
Mike, he
teasing,
knows
I'm
it.
teasing. Mr. Attorney, would you give us a brief?
Sure. So, as our code exists now and has forever, the variance procedures or variance circumstances are really, really limited. This one is based, pretty much on Oconee counties, or at least partly. It doesn't have everything that they have, but it tries to bring in, you know, the variance situations that we deal with most often, gives a lot more discretion to the board to grant variances than it had before. Gives the guidelines and the standards you would look at to do that. It also adds some additional administrative variances that the zoning administrator, that Ms. Linda, can grant without having to come to the board. You see those laid out here. And again, those are consistent with what other counties do. Could simplify things for some people. So there's some routine things that y'all have been having to do that you won't have to do in the future. And finally, these, you'll see that, so that's section 11, 11.1 and 11.2. We also had some inconsistent things about variances scattered throughout the zoning ordinance, and this cleans those up too. It deletes some of them, changes others to be consistent with the main variance provisions in 11.1.
Thanks, sir. And I think you can clarify the statement if it's incorrect, but for the audience and for those at home at a later date, if they're watching the video, the administrative variance has some limitations, so it's not a wide open request. So minor, you know, what I would call minor administrative adjustments can be made at that level. Anything above that has to come back to the board. So it's
the process.
Has to come through a process. So just trying to give a brief summary of there are some checks and balances on it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I'd say the planning and zoning and Mike, y'all did a good job on putting those together.
Thanks. Thanks. Oh, Mr. Chairman, presiding chairman, if I could ask, I sent you on this one and a couple of others, I sent you slightly modified versions. Is that what the board has?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
Because I forwarded those on to the board, of which they've gotten many emails throughout this whole process,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Worse out.
Yes, they were just little tiny corrections.
Hopefully the last email is what they have, yes.
Yeah, confused this old man.
I'm sorry.
I got it worked out though.
All right. Back to the public hearing portion of it. Anyone speak in favor of the rezoning amendment? Anyone want to speak in opposition to the zoning amendment? We'll officially close the public hearing portion of it and then bring it back for the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this amendment to 11.1 variances be approved as presented.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the revision of the amendment. And it's your turn.
Yes.
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 The next amendment has section 9.16, title caretaker, and that's, this amendment just deletes that section in its entirety. And the vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this amendment.
For clarity purposes, we're repealing the entirety of that section and replacing it with this. Is that correct?
No, we're doing away with it totally.
Yeah, if you have the updated one that I sent, it would say item 1 would be it's deleted and replaced with reserved. Okay. As a placeholder there.
All right. serve. All right. All right, we've got a proposed ordinance amendment, to hereby delete 9.16 in its entirety, and that section is caretaking or employee dwellings. We will open the public hearing session for anyone who wants to speak in favor of that rezone request, or amendment, zoning amendment. Seeing no one, anyone who speak in opposition to deleting this section of the code.
Laura, at the meeting last week, I don't remember the discussion of this. Would you highlight some of y'all's thoughts on deleting this? You or Linda, whoever's most appropriate to do so.
We didn't need the caretaker, because we have an ADU, accessory dwelling unit.
Okay. I just didn't remember the discussion.
There was so much discussion.
All right, we'll officially close the public hearing section, so as part of what I'm hearing is we'll delete this section because there can be applied, or any request can be addressed under a separate ordinance provision. All right. This is truly a cleanup one then. All right. Anybody on the board want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second. Then, any further discussion or comment? Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Sir. All right.
The next amendment has to do with section 6.6.4, and is adding the wording in section 6.6.4 that there must be a home on the lot. Only one camper RV tent is allowed. And it also adds section 6.6.6 to read all campers and RVs must be tagged and titled. And it also, item 3, it adds section 6.6.7, creates that to read as follows: a camper RV tent cannot be used as a dwelling. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 7-0 to recommend approval of this amendment.
Can I jump in here, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify which version we're looking at? Because that's another one I had made a slight revision on that section 6.6.7 to say that except as permitted by section 8.6 of this zoning ordinance, a camper RV tent cannot be used as a dwelling, because that section 8.6 was added to permit that under certain narrow circumstances some years ago. So you'd either have to carve that out like I suggested, or you'd have to delete 8.6 too.
I'll get your amendment before they're
Okay.
signed.
All right.
Where, time for all discussion,
All right, so,
I think actually you need to do your public hearing first.
before we do that, can you restate 6.6.7?
Yes, all I did was the one you got in front of you, I added to the front of it, except as permitted by section 8.6 of this zoning ordinance.
since in our agenda, we're on the listing 6.6.4, are we okay to address all of these?
Yeah, actually, I didn't pick that up on the agenda. Ah, I see. What did our notice in the paper say?
Zoning, it said that, it said this,
6.6.4?
it said the whole agenda, right, yeah.
Okay. So the answer is, thank you for bringing that up, and no, we haven't advertised 666 and 667.
All right, so since all these go together, it would be best to bring this back together as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any particular reason not to bring it back as a unit?
On 9/13. with the
Do we
913
need to go ahead and vote on 6.6.4?
Yes, can you please do that one tonight?
All right.
This is for code enforcement.
Okay, so 6.6.6, 6.6.7 will be 913.
All right, so can we?
We're already on 6.6.4.
Yeah, and can we, what does that one say, and just to make it clear?
All right, I'll read this, and then we'll open up the public hearing session, now that we know what we're doing. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Madison County. Section 6.6.4 shall read as follows. Individual RVs occupied temporarily by a guest of the owner or tenant of the property on which the RV is located shall be allowed not to exceed 15 consecutive calendar days in any 60-day period. There must be a home on the lot. Only one camper RV tent is allowed. Now, with that ordinance being as read, we'll open up. Anybody want to speak in favor of that amendment?
While we're in this, Mike, do we have anything that addresses the tiny house thing?
No, remind me on that, Ms. Forson, I'm sorry.
In the state of Georgia, a tiny house that you see on TV that's on the wheels, axles and everything, has to be tagged and titled just like an automobile, and the state considers those RVs.
So for our purposes, for building permits, it's 400 square foot minimum, is
Yes.
that right? Okay.
State Southern Building Code.
So, and I'm asking then, if the tiny house is supposed to meet the requirement of an RV or a camper, should it be inserted into this?
It is an RV,
The state would call them an RV, right?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, I mean, there's no legal definition of a quote tiny house. If it's tagged and titled, it's gonna be regulated as a mobile home. If it's site-built or modular, it's gonna be subject to building codes, which includes 400 square foot minimum.
All right. Do you want to speak as a citizen, or you want to speak as a code enforcement officer?
Which one y'all want me to do? I'll do either one. Y'all ask me questions. How's that? Citizen.
All right.
I didn't know.
Anybody want to speak in opposition to this amendment?
I just have a question, if I know about or anything. I just had my, house appraised again, and I have 2 storage sheds on there, and she made me unlock them to make sure people weren't actually living in my storage shed. And I do know of one person that is actually doing that. I don't know if this, will affect that or not.
We can address that at a later date.
We need to get her name back.
Talk to this guy.
Can you,
I'll talk to you in a
Wait a
minute.
minute.
for the record, can you give your name and address or community?
Yeah, I'm Linda Pitt, and I'm from Colbert.
Thank you, ma'am. All right.
So were you speaking in opposition to this? Or?
Well, I don't want them living in storage sheds.
I would say she was in favor.
Favor.
She's in
Okay.
favor.
Be in favor of that, right?
Yeah. All right. No one else coming forward, we're gonna close the public hearing session of the amendment. And I'll ask staff to come and brief us with information that we may need.
Yes. Currently, we're not changing anything except the verbiage to, close the loopholes that some people are trying to find their way through. We do have it set up where you can legally, for various reasons, live in a mobile home, but there's so many that are not and are affecting our community in a negative way. Because of these verbiage loopholes, it makes our job very, very difficult to keep our community standards up. And that's the reason I've asked planning and zoning to try and look at the verbiage to allow us to enforce it in a safe way and still be respectful of those and hardships, but to try and help clean up our community. We do have several camper parks, I guess you could say,
hid back in the woods, but for one reason or another, it kind of slips through because of our verbiage. Because of the ability of them to say, oh, I haven't slept there 15 days, which doesn't come into so much this one. I went to such and such a house at a different point in time. This is just helping us narrow our field down to where we're able to enforce the rules and the codes and amendments that we already have in place. It's just an essential to help us do what's already laid out.
But Chris, this wouldn't include, like if we go down, this wouldn't include deer camp or something like that.
No, and that's the reason we have that 15 days in there. Throw out two examples. UGA football game. Folks come over, pop a camper up because all the hotels are gone. They're there for maybe a weekend.
Yeah.
You know, that's no trouble. If somebody sets a camper up at a deer camp and everything, unless they've got, you know, better lifestyle than most of us are able to live, they're not going to be at deer camp for 15 consecutive days, or they're really, really lucky, or plan it out. Oh, now I know who I'm looking at. But with the rare exception, you can't have money over there. Most of them aren't there for 15 consecutive days, unless their last name's Adams. I'm looking at you now. Where's your deer camp at?
I give up.
But that's the reason we do have these numbers and these days laid out for those exceptions.
I mean, suffice it to say, it's not for the recreational, occasional user.
No.
It's for permanent,
It's just for
permanent home,
For permanent
or
home.
permanent resident that are living in areas they shouldn't be.
Yes, sir. Because they don't have a certificate of occupancy, they can't have power put on because they don't have a certificate of occupancy. They don't have to do a perk test, they just throw it up somewhere, and now there's raw septic leaking everywhere.
Yeah, got you.
So that's was the process behind all this.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Thank you for the staff report. And if you want to pick this one up.
Move we recommend this amendment as presented, 6.6.4.
Second.
So a motion and a second to approve section 6.6.4 as read. Any further discussion, comment? Go back to Denny, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, last one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next amendment deals with section 4.7.2 of the subdivision ordinances. And it adds the wording that is read, that I'll read. It says, this shall also apply to subdivision lots of 1 acre. For subdivision lots with 1 acre, the homes must be at least 200 or 2,500 square feet and own a crawl space. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was a vote of 6-1 to recommend that this amendment not be made.
All right. All right, we've got a proposed ordinance amendment for the zoning ordinance change. And we'll open the public hearing session of this. Is there anybody that would like to come forward and speak in favor of the proposed wording?
Could that be clarified just a little bit? I'm a little confused about what that's doing.
What the change is?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
The current minimum lot size, period, is 1.5 acres. This
Right.
proposes a smaller lot size.
And is there a current square foot minimum in the current ordinance?
I'll let y'all answer that. No, not like this, no.
Mr. Chairman, it might be helpful if one of us just reads the whole thing so that.
Okay. All right, I'll read it, and then hopefully that'll be helpful. Ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of Madison County, section 4.7.2 shall be changed to read as the following. The following land areas are not considered as part of a lot when calculating the required minimum lot size for a subdivision of 1.5, that's supposed to have acre in there?
Yeah.
Probably. Lots, it says lots, rights of ways, easements, bodies of water, floodplains, land within 50 feet of a lake, river, stream, wetland, or other bodies of water or similar limiting factors. The addition reads, this shall also apply to subdivision lots of 1 acre. For subdivision lots with 1 acre, the homes must be at least 2,500 square feet and on crawl space. That's what has been typed up and sent before us, and been proposed, and has been recommended for denial by the planning commission.
Only the red part is the amendment.
Mhm.
The black part is what's already in there.
And for the audience, the red part proposed to be added is the this shall also apply part. So what this does is it's so you have a 1.5 acre minimum lot size now for subdivisions. There are certain areas within that you can't count towards that 1.5 acres, such as easement, like a power line easement or something that's in a wetland. That doesn't count towards your minimum. This is adding, I think, and I may need y'all's help, to say that this also applies in some of the older subdivisions that have lots that are less than 1 acre. Those types of features would also be less than 1.5 acres. They'd also be applied to that calculation. No?
No.
So we have, I never understood this, to be honest. Right now, we have, the minimum lot size is 1.5 acres. The only way there'd be a lot of less than that is if it was an older subdivision that has.
This deals with subdivisions from here forward. And all it does is allow a subdivision lot to be 1 acre if it meets this 2,500 square foot minimum. And
Okay.
be on a crawl space.
All right, I think that wording needs some help if that's what we want to do.
I agree. I agree, because that's not what I understood when I read this.
So in other words, we would actually be approving 1 acre lot.
And
If we
denied it.
But y'all denied it, so if we vote with the planning commission. Okay, gotcha.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You want to speak as a planning commission member or public?
Well,
And then,
Are we in the public hearing?
vote.
I'm trying to decide if I'm going into it or if we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
scratch
We're coming
this.
in, right?
I'm trying to figure out if we're having trouble and it needs to be punted.
Right.
Do we punt now and then bring it back?
There is that, yeah, or, well,
Like the one before it.
Well, I'll speak as a plan.
yeah.
All right, come speak as a planning commission.
Canoa Scott, 30494 North Shiloh Road. Also a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. This particular amendment was brought to us, saying that you must have a house of so many square feet with crawl space. But basically what it's saying is that we are now going to allow 1 acre lots, where in the past it has been 1.5 acres. Okay. We hope that the commissioners will say no to this, because we need to be consistent at some point. You know, we've had 3/4, we've had 1.5 acres, we've had 1 acre, now we want to add something different. So the reason that it was recommended by the Planning and Zoning to deny is because we need to get some consistency, so the citizens will know, or the builders will know, what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Don't know the reason that this was brought before, but it was brought before the Planning Commission and asked. So we did vote to deny.
So, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like we've got two options. If the board wants to vote on this and deny it, we do need to go ahead and open the public hearing to go through that process. The other option, I guess, would be to send it back to Planning Commission like we did before, but I'm not hearing any desire from the Planning Commission to deal with this any further, so I don't know if that's what we want to do.
All right, I'm thinking, well, we've got a recommendation from the planning department. I can't read the tea leaves, but I'm gonna guess. We'll open the public hearing session, we'll take public comment, and then we'll address with actionable item. All right, so we'll open the public comment period. Is there anybody here want to speak in favor of the proposed amendment?
I'll talk. And I'm not gonna, I'm both ways. All right.
State your name and.
Jake Fridgen, longtime resident of Madison County. I agree 100% with changing our zoning rules to allow 1 acre lots. I do not agree with making individuals have to have a 2,500 square foot house with a crawl space to have a 1 acre lot. That's kind of zoning in on who can afford and who cannot afford it. And I don't think that's what we need to be doing. I mean, I think what goes for one goes for all. You know, I don't think square footage allotments, you can do that with subdivision regulations. When somebody brings a subdivision plan in here, if we agree that, hey, all these houses in this subdivision are going to be 2,500 square feet, that's up to the developer, the builder, et cetera. I don't think that should be a minimum requirement that says my 1 acre lot, I can do this on and you can't. If you're doing it, because we're talking about this is just for subdivisions. I think subdivision requirements y'all should go back. I personally think it should go back to 0.75 acres, which is what it was originally, when y'all changed it to 1.5. I know y'all didn't do it, but when it changed to 1.5, but I see way too much agricultural land being ate up right now because y'all changed the rules to 1.5 acres. I mean, it's costing about another 58 acres every 100 houses, you know, getting that extra half an acre. So you see our ag land getting ate up. We're just, you know, it just doesn't make sense economically. Y'all want to see some commercial development come in. Everybody's tired of their taxes going up. And the only way we're going to do that is get some rooftops built in the areas that they should be in. And I think this comprehensive plan needs to be designed around that. That up in, we already said, you know, 98 is the divide line towards Hull, more density in the right areas. I'm not saying go out here but in the right areas, according to our comprehensive plan, we need to make it so that people can go in here and make it affordable. Because right now, we do not have any affordable housing in Madison County. I mean, when you make them do a 1.5 acre lot, it drives the cost up of those roads so much, it can run up to $20,000 for one lot. Because right now, and I hadn't done it in the last year, but a year ago when I sat down with it, to pave in front of a 1.5 acre lot, it was $42,000. That's about what it ran that lot up to. Cost about $42,000 with the cost of the land. And that's before you put profit in it. That's before you build a house on it. That's just doing that. And when you drive those prices up, it's not affordable anymore for anybody to come in here and buy a starter home or to put a home under $100,000.
Thank you, sir.
Drove it up so much.
Thank you, Fred. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the proposed change?
As it was presented, I'm kind of with Jay. I'm kind of for and against, but as it was presented. Kim Shoup, I live at 160 Hidden Lake Drive in Hull, Georgia. I've been a proud resident of this county for 21 years, and I sell a lot of real estate here. And the first thing I just want to say is thank you for the opportunity to even have a discussion. Thank you for who even made the proposal to the planning and zoning so that we can open up this box and talk about it. I know some of you have seen me talk already to the Board of Education and to the Rotary Club about what's going on in this county. I was glad to see Northeast Georgia here. They've also been at several chamber meetings about the comprehensive plan, because we are at a crossroad we were at in 2005, and then the recession hit, and we never got to go through the intersection. But we're going through the intersection. When he says affordable housing, I just closed on a double wide for $200,000. That was a starter home. There is no affordable housing in this county, and you're not going to get it with an 1.5 acre lot. And I know I've said, because you've seen it in the paper, that yes, we have people coming to this area from the Atlanta area and from California. The last 25 transactions I did were people that were kids that grew up in this county and graduated from this high school, and they want to stay here in this county. And we can't do it if we don't have affordable housing. I would encourage you, I don't like the way that it was presented. I would say no to that too. There shouldn't be a square foot minimum. There shouldn't be a crawl space or slab minimum. What I would like to see is when we get this comprehensive plan figured out, the areas that we've identified that we want subdivisions, that we want families, and by the way, every family usually brings 2 sets of grandparents with it that don't use our educational resources. So I would encourage us to look more at what we want the subdivision to look like, with street lights and sidewalks and playgrounds and swimming pools, than be focused on whether the lot size is 1.5 acres or 1 acre. I'd prefer it to go to 3/4 acre. It was just a moratorium that was put on it to kind of stop growth. And at that point, maybe everybody that was involved wasn't ready to take on what needs to be taken on. But with our schools now ranked number 16 in the state, and we're trying to get into the top 10 in the next 3 years, we've got to do something collaboratively with the commissioners, planning and zoning, the Board of Education, and I'm happy to help as the vice chair of the Chamber of Commerce. So whatever that needs to look like, I don't want to have to tell graduates coming out of this high school that their only option is to live on mom and daddy's back 40, that we can't provide them with a home to live and raise their family in the same community that they love. So,
Thank you, Ms. Shue.
thank you.
Hey, my name is Virginia Beavers. I live at 640 River Hill Drive in Bowman, Georgia. And I'm with them. I feel like it's a yes-no. First of all, we look at the state for the minimum guidelines, which is no one's mentioned, but it's based on the soil types. So in order to put a working septic system in, I believe it's 25,500 square feet of usable soil. And if I'm not mistaken, that comes to around three-quarters of an acre lot. And that's why the state, I think, utilizes that as its minimum. Regardless of what you decide on minimum lot size, I feel like that slab-built construction is the best way to go. I've been building homes since I was 18. Not that I've built that many, but I have been there from ground up, and I've done it several times, and I've been a part of sales where it was done many times, and I have to say that crawl space construction is really not the best method of construction. There's so many issues: mold, mildew, a refrigerator that's leaking can destroy the floor joist. It's expensive. It costs insurance companies money. So also, though, I think that's a very good, valid point. And I want to throw something else out there, which a lot of people probably won't care because it doesn't affect that many people. But there's also something to the disabled. When you build a house up on a crawl space, it's got to be, 36 inches off the ground. Have you ever tried pushing an adult up a wheelchair ramp? It's not that easy, especially one that can't use a motorized vehicle. So, slab-built houses really solve that issue too. And as people get older, I personally built my final home slab-built house. I mean, I put my money where my mouth is, and I pay taxes on that house. I'm sure y'all are glad to get it. I don't think that my house devalued my neighborhood, so I don't really feel like that this criteria, the minimum lot size should have anything to do with the method of construction. As far as square footage goes, you really can't build a 3-bedroom house that's under 1,600 square feet. That is like the minimum that most houses can be, for loans, appraisals, and so forth. So I don't think the county dictating the minimum square footage is going to really, drive prices. It'll drive prices up or just drive people away, one or the other, I suppose. Anyway, I'd like for y'all to take those things in consideration, whatever, regardless of the minimum lot size.
Thank you, Ms. Jean. All right. Anyone speak in opposition to the proposed amendment?
I won't speak in opposition, but
Well, she started with a yes, no. Well, they all classified a yes, no. I guess I'm in the no, yes classification now.
I have 3 yes, no.
Gary Harvin again. I would just suggest that y'all would look at tabling this item. It sounds like there's a bigger picture at play in the community. Ms. Shoup talked about more of a master plan community. I think that there's flexibility to meet these options to get residents here if we target these areas for more of a PUD style zoning or master plan zoning where you can do these things. So, I think that's a step we gotta look ahead on. I don't think it's a decision we need to make tonight.
Anyone else? All right, well, thanks for everybody for the comments and participation. We will close the public hearing session of this and bring it back before the board.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we deny approval of this amendment as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second to deny the suggested ordinance change, and that would be in line with the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Any further comment or discussion?
I'd like to say a little something, particularly to you realtor folks that's here tonight. Thank you. I was really looking for some headbutting on this one. I mentioned this to the Planning and Zoning at their public hearing last week. This doesn't need to get in front of the comprehensive plan. And like Mr. Harvin said, as we define areas that we suspect should be more dense development, then I think there's an opportunity there for planning types of structures, reduced acreage sizes, all those things. And obviously you got a component of that, particularly when you get into smaller lot sizes, is sewage. And that's got to be part of all of it. So thank y'all for recognizing that we're just not being bullies up here, but it's got to be part of the whole picture where we're going. So comprehensive plan first, and then look for these issues to be addressed as a result of that, in my mind. So thank you.
Any other comments? Just push. All right. And the motion on the table is to deny, and a yes means denial.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries and it is denied. Thank you, planning and zoning people. All right. Next on our agenda, we'll discuss criteria for requests for proposals for business personal property audits. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read through the package that was sent to them. Robin's not here.
Yeah, Robin's
Oh,
here.
hey, Rob, he's hiding. You wanna come forth and spin our ears?
Well, I guess this tonight is just if y'all have any questions or anything that you see that needs to be added or omitted, because there's not gonna be a vote on it tonight. Mike, I did get with Mike, and he made some changes that we went back in and corrected. So he has looked at the entire RFP.
And they have to change it.
Okay.
I have a comment, and it's not specifically this, but it's this issue. And as I talk to folks about what could happen here, what our end goal is, what we're thinking of accomplishing. A little bit of pushback on the thought of having somebody that's not Madison County coming in and handle this service. And it almost would come across as, I don't trust you that you're turning your business personal property, honestly. if I were in that position, it would come across that way to me. Not saying that's the attitude is done, but it could come across that way. There may be other opportunities that, and this is just a thought, this is for y'all to consider as we are considering this as well. So what would be some possible alternatives, one of which would be an increase in staff for you that would allow maybe for you to assign one person to handle all this in-house. And I know that you mentioned that we don't have anybody that's specialized enough or trained enough. So anyway, what would be the opportunity, what would be the possibility of you and your department having one person to specialize in this, and then that becoming the authority, as opposed to us bringing someone in from outside to do it? If we did that, could we expect even the same or a better rate of return? And then maybe we would not have the same degree of pushback from somebody feeling like you got somebody from the outside coming in and questioning them. And also another component of this would be the business licensing. And, is that something that we as a board need to take up? And to me, they sort of fit hand in gloves. Anyway, my statement, I guess, is to encourage y'all to maybe think outside of the box of just assuming that we need to hire an audit service, and maybe there may be a different way to approach this.
I mean, we could certainly look at that. I don't know. I think in order to get someone in the office that would be experienced with anything like this, they would have to probably have to be a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to be familiar with the code section.
Sure.
That goes along with this. And then they would have to have experience in doing this particular type of auditing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the cost for that would be.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people out there that aren't already working for these types of firms may be available for that.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely, those kind of questions are going to have to be asked and answered.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just throwing some numbers out there. We talk about a better than $100,000 a year contract with the potential of maybe $300,000 return. So what if you pay somebody $80,000 to do that? And would the return be the same?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, in my thinking again, as we question this, at the end of 3 years, is your rate of return the same? And so, is there a problem with, if we decide to do it in-house, what if this becomes a 4-year process or a 5-year to make the complete audit as opposed to 3 years? Are we equally as well off? So anyway, those are just some of the questions that went through my mind as I was debating whether or not even this is the right direction to go.
Okay. And that's understandable. But I know that this is a requirement from the Department of Revenue that the audits are done. And they have to be done. We do audit criteria. So far, the way we've been handling it in the office is we've just been doing small things. And we've been doing desk audits the best we can. And when the Department of Revenue comes in every 3 years and does our office audit, and they grade us on everything that we're supposed to be doing through the code section and the appraisal procedural manual, that's one of the things that they do look at is how our audits are going. And I know these audit firms handle probably 3/4 of the state and all the other 3/4 of the counties in the state is what I'm trying to say. So it's not something that I don't think any county is trying to pick on any of the taxpayers.
Sure.
It's not what we want to do. We just want to make sure that everything is being returned in a uniform manner. And that's one thing that the Department of Revenue looks at when they come into the office. But we can certainly look at the other things.
Yeah, just some thought process maybe to look into.
I don't know what a salary for a CPA may be today.
And it would require a full-time position, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, and I just want to make that clear. I mean, there's no way that you could have any of your part-time, even a part-time person that did that. So it's like you couldn't even go out and probably hire a CPA firm to do it. I mean, that's the same thing you're doing with
That's exactly
what we're doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
The Department of Revenue, they have I'll use pamphlet for lack of a better word, or a little sample package of, why we do it,
why it's required? Besides just saying it's in the,
That's not,
just the law. I'm not very familiar with it. I'm trying to educate myself, is what I'm trying to get to. Is there a place where I can go do a little more research and get my head around it?
I can get you the appraiser procedure manual, and what the appraiser procedure manual is the office Bible. And all it is where the Department of Revenue has set their policy and procedures in that book as to what the legislature has passed down to them as law. So the legislature passes the law to the Department of Revenue tells all the counties how to carry out, making sure that law's
Yeah, I mean, that's actually part of the state regulations, so that's a regulation of the...
Does the ACCG have a short course?
I don't know. I'll tell you,
I mean, just a quote, I'm just trying to...
Yeah, I don't know either, if I can jump in, but I'm not sure how, I've handled some appeals for other counties where a taxpayer, a business owner, thought their property, their personal property had been taxed too high. But frankly, I don't know how they got to that number that the owner thought was too high. I know obviously with the structural appraisal, you look at it from the outside. You can go inside with the owner's permission. Just looking at it from the outside is not going to tell you anything about personal property. So I don't know what this audit, what anyone, whether it's a firm or a person or an individual, does to audit that.
I'm not sure on the particulars of how the firms do their auditing. That's something that we would have to ask the firms.
Yeah, so like for real estate, like Mike said, you can, there's something tangible there that you can kind of see, but on a private, personal property.
I'm assuming that it's going to be more of we're going to pick so many businesses and we're going to do an inventory on that business. We're going to look at what, I honestly don't know, but I know that they will probably have to do an inventory on what the businesses have as far as machinery, equipment, furniture, fixtures.
Well, how do they get that information other than
They will send out a notice to the property owner that they want to come to the business.
What if the owner says no?
Then that's all in the code section as to how they handle that.
Okay.
So right now, that is all done by just, by volunteer submission.
By the returns that we get through the taxpayers, that's right.
Would it be safe to say, though, that counties, the size of ours and population and overall budget, they don't do this in-house?
Not in-house, no. And actually, they do hire these firms. And I just got back from a course week before last and talked to some of the other counties, chiefs, and the Elbert County is currently doing their auditing. Forsyth County is doing their auditing. Banks County, I'm not sure if Franklin is. I didn't talk to Franklin. But I know that a lot of counties do this, and not only do they do a 3-year audit, but they continue to do the auditing year after year after year. And that's who, if you'll remember at the last meeting, we had some recommendations from some other counties, and they're in like their 3rd or 4th renewal with them, which are going into 10 years of continuously doing these audits. So I think there is an upside to it, but I think we can answer some of those questions that y'all have.
Because I'm somewhat in Terry's camp, that if we have to expend this resource and there's a return of investment of that resource, can we shape it in a format, and it may be a gradual approach to get there, but can we get it to a point where that we're actually providing a decent paying job for somebody, locally, and not just having it farmed out? Just from thought process.
And maybe even somebody that's already in the office may want to educate themselves up to that level and bring somebody into their position.
Well, they may, but I don't know that they would be able to do it in a time frame that might be helpful to the office. It may be something that would take years of training or education.
Okay. Any other questions? If you give me a link to that.
I I don't know that it's online. I'll look on the Department of Revenue's website, but if not, I do have the appraiser procedure manual in my office.
Okay.
That I can get you a copy of that section.
Can I make one more suggestion? I don't know if I've said this to you or not, but one thing you might want to just consider putting in the RFP is asking them to specifically price what they would charge for testifying at BOE or court hearing proceedings, as well as just what they would charge for the audit itself.
And now the firms that I have spoken with, because I had spoken with some firms before we came up the last meeting and decided we needed to do the RFP, that is all part of the cost that they have quoted.
Okay. Okay.
And if you do have a link, will you,
I'll
send it
get
to all
it
of
to
us?
each of you, yeah.
Like going under the impression or the requirement, I should say, it's not an impression, because you said it's required in code, or required by the Department of Revenue to do these types of audits. Is there a time frame that the Department of Revenue has interjected to us saying, y'all need to go do some work? Or is it just part of their manual and we need to attend to it on our time frame?
Well, they do our review. We have a digest review every 3 years. We just had it this year. So we have 3 years before we have the review again. And this will be one of the things that they'll grade us on again.
Okay.
They'll be looking to see that you are conducting these audits.
Right.
So this was identified in the last review that...
It wasn't identified as let's say a demerit, because we have been doing the audits. We've just been doing small audits, desk audit kind of stuff.
All right.
When you say audits, random comes to my mind, but in discussing, and I may have mentioned it to you, maybe Derek I was talking to, this would be something that you actually would touch every business in that cycle somewhere. So if this is a 3-year audit or if it's a 4-year, then everybody gets audited at some point.
We have 626 businesses in the county that would be in that 3-year cycle.
So you would do 200 and...
each year.
Each year.
That we know of, we have that many businesses.
That's right, that we know of.
I mean, and that goes back to your concern. Without business license, there's no way to determine how many businesses we have in the county, because I just use that on the phone.
And that's true, and each year the number of businesses changes because there will be businesses that go out before the first of the year that we have to take them off, and then there will be businesses that come in. So, and some of them will come in and stay 6 months, so we don't get those at all.
well, I just want to make one comment. I know that, of course, I graduated in an accounting degree, and this is 1980, and I hadn't been practicing that. My career took me in different directions. But I do know from what I knew back then that a lot of this is looking at once you start doing the audit, you get their financial records too, and their cost of goods sold and all that kind of stuff, and goes into their inventories and all, which tells the accountants a lot of stuff, what they ought to be looking for. And by their experience, supposedly, they know what these businesses are supposed to have as assets. And so they go to try to verify that. And that's how they come up with these prices. So that's what you're talking about. You got to have somebody that's got the accounting knowledge, but also that experience of doing it. And usually it's people that have specialized in that, and they have accounting degrees, and they really majored in doing the costing part of that, which I did for about 3 years.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason these companies are out there, because there aren't a lot of people that are specialized in this.
You're exactly right. I'm sitting here reading the regulation now, and so there is no power to enter a business without the owner's consent, but the Board of Assessors does have subpoena power for records for those exact things. So that's how it's done. All kinds of expertise.
It almost makes me want to make a motion to Brian that does the textbooks on, and we can appoint him tonight.
On this. Well, I'm a little rusty, but I still got some of it.
Well,
go Dogs.
We might have a position for you to apply for.
So what we need to do, what I'm hearing is just, we need to noodle on this request for proposal, have any more questions or comments, and we can, circulate them between us
Right.
Mike, and.
Because I don't think it
Todd.
was even supposed to come to vote till the next meeting. right?
August 30th.
Okay, August 30th.
All right.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Consider approving the millage rate. We do need to take action on this tonight, what I was told. Yep. So, yeah, the chairman's gone now. Millage rate resolution, Board of Commissioners establish the following millage rate for the calendar 2022. And for the net millage, incorporated areas will be 14.115, for unincorporated areas will be 12.537.
This is unchanged.
Yeah.
Right.
It's unchanged. Actual millage rate actually is a little lower, but the digest increase, that's the reason it has to be put in the paper as a tax increase.
We've had 3 public hearings today.
Yep, correct.
All right. Bring it to the board.
I make the motion to accept the millage rate as just read.
Second motion.
We got a motion and a second to approve the millage rate as proposed. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none? Mr. Denny?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that resolution is approved. Now we got a,
Well, the millage rate approved. Now we're gonna go to the resolution.
correct. So we've got a resolution to combine the school board, IDBA, and the county millage rates, all for the purposes of, why do we do this? Just because all done?
Tax Commissioner's Office.
There you go. I knew there was a reason.
Yeah. School board is a recommending body, and you're the levying body. That's okay, have to act on their recommendation.
All right, so we've got a millage rate resolution pursuant to provisions of Official Code of Georgia, annotated section 48.5-220. A meeting of the Madison County Board of Commissioners was held on August 2nd for the purpose of setting the millage rate for ad valorem taxation of property within Madison County. Prior to the meeting, the Board of Commissioners caused to be published in the legal organ, the Madison County Journal, the report required by our official code of Georgia, annotated section 48-5-32. The report was published on July 8, 2021. The Madison County Board of Education at its meeting on July 20th, 2021, levied a millage rate of 6.990 mills for school maintenance and operating purposes, and the Madison County Industrial Development Authority at its meeting on June 23rd, 2021, levied a millage rate of 1 mills for maintenance and operating purposes.
16 for the school. 16.99 for 6.
No, 16.99 for the Board of Education. I'm sorry if I misread that.
I was about to move over here.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Anyone have pleasure?
I make a motion to combine as proposed.
Second. And a motion and a second to approve the millage rate as presented, not as read, but as presented. And any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, Mr. Terry?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. The next thing on our agenda is discussing developing a full comprehensive plan. And other than, I mean, I'll turn it over to the board, but I guess in my opinion though, in order of, in what Ms. Kennedy brought and gave us some information to look at, I think we need to, I have not had a chance to look through all of it. I don't know if y'all have, but I think it lends itself an opportunity to look at it, reflect on some of the conversations that we've had. We've had one steering committee meeting that we did go to that was publicized. for that purposes. And so, unless y'all have anything to add or you need additional comments from we've already shared, I'll open the floor for any on the board.
No, I just think that we do need to look at this, and I think the presentation answers some additional questions that I had. And, so, yeah, I think that we'll just need to discuss this further and make sure that we're headed in to do the most comprehensive plan that we can get in the time frame that is required.
I agree, we're premature in making a decision. I would like to suggest that, we get you to line us up a couple other, agencies that do this sort of work, so we can hear what there's, like we heard here tonight, what expertise they have, what their proposal be, even some dollar figures from them, so we can see what else is out there.
All right. Ma'am?
I think we need to go through the request for proposal process, I agree.
Yep.
I was about to suggest, you could do an RFP for
You
that.
know, because still what we heard tonight, and I appreciate Ms. Kennedy taking the time to explain a little bit more to us what a comprehensive plan is, but we all know what a comprehensive plan is. It's how they're gonna make one specific to our county, is what I wanna hear.
Right.
You know, right.
Okay, so would you like a request for a proposal to be written and discuss it, or do you want to discuss preparing a request for proposal?
No, I mean, in my opinion, what I've heard and what I think I'm hearing is, everybody take the opportunity to kind of review what was been presented and make sure we don't have any other questions or comments. We can draft a request for proposal.
So Rhonda's question is, do you want that done now, or do you want to wait until your next meeting? And if you want it now, who do you want to do it? I didn't see that finger.
Do you have some of these that you?
I have some drafts I think I could share with Mike and let him,
Okay.
and let him look through those, and possibly a few contacts if he would mind making a few phone calls. I think that we could do that, and again, I want to do it right. I've shared that with several people. This is important, it's very important. I do not want to make light of that. I don't want to, I don't want to dismiss any resources that we have available, and if that means a private firm, or if that means RDC, or if that means some sort of hybrid approach.
Combination of the
that, may utilize both the resources. I think Commissioner Curtin is exactly right. I think there will be things that come up, and for example, the public meetings, she shared that, you have or maybe the comp plan called for a minimum of 2 or 3.
Right.
However, I think, personally, I'm thinking it will probably need more.
Absolutely.
And then that brings in the amount of resources. If you want to get it done with, say, if you want to have your public meeting time, for example, in a 30-day period, they may have other clients that they're working with. Everybody's on a certain different schedule. So if that hybrid approach brings in another activity or another firm that could really kind of mass hit something like that and collect some of that data and then turn it over to someone to do that, that may be an approach as well. So I will get with Mike.
Okay.
And
would the board like to see this RFP at the next meeting before it's put out?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So August 30th, September 27th?
August 30th.
That's your two,
well, how about we do this?
regular business.
Let's do this. Let's target August, end of August, with at least an update.
Yeah.
If Mr. Pruitt feels like he needs a little more time, then he can give us.
I got a question. The RFP, once we have it finalized, then it will just go out to all agencies, or do we target one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, typically how that works with any expert, you know, you publish it in the paper, you put it on the Georgia Procurement Registry, all those things you have to do. But you would typically reach out to people you know of and make sure that they know about it.
Know about it.
And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
You know, that's not giving anybody an advantage.
Right, okay.
So, then what I'm hearing, the September 6th will be our next planning meeting,
No. 13th.
the 13th, and then we meet on the 27th. So the planning meeting on the 13th, we would present the RFP for review. That gives us 30 days to put it together. Is that fair? And then
Yeah, I mean,
we
we can
vote
aim
on
it.
it on the 27th.
I mean, we can aim at having something at the end of this month, I think. And if we need more time, take it. But
Well, I
I'm
can
fine.
always list it as consider the RFP
Yeah.
for this, and then if there's changes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't
I think
have,
that's the way to do
you
it.
could vote and go perfect product, or,
Well, technically, we don't have to vote to put something on the
That's
street.
right.
I mean,
Right.
legally, we don't have to. I mean, I think
Right.
it's just more of a consensus that we're comfortable
Right.
with the language that's being presented to move forward.
Mhm.
The legal, the actual acceptance or contract award, that would be an agenda.
That's right. So, you know, keeping in mind, you don't have to vote anyway. It can always be a discussion item on the 8:30 agenda.
Mhm.
And if there's consensus, then the administration can go ahead and put it out.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Might suggest we tap into surveyors' knowledge of these folks too.
Okay, yeah.
Look at the neighboring counties, and decide which one. I'm sure Eric's got plenty of them too that he deals with as well, so.
All right. Moving on, to new business, there is none, and we have one item that was brought to my attention under urgent matters, and a vote is required. This is a partnership agreement with Windstream for NTIA, which is, let me find it, like, National Telecommunications and Information Administration. Who thought there was such a thing?
It's brand new.
There you go. For Broadband Infrastructure Program Partnership. Evidently, there's federal funds out there that can be applied for. The application is due prior to our next meeting.
Right.
And it's my understanding that, Mr. Attorney, you read through this, and
Yep, that's the one I marked up and sent you late today, right? Yeah, and Christina's been the point person on this. It's, she knows more than any of us.
And she did a pretty good job of pushing people to get, not you, Mike, but others.
No, I'll take that.
And from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, for the public, this application or partnership is to acquire federal funding at zero cost to the county.
Right.
And there is no, you know, if that application is turned down, there's no commitment to Windstream, there's no, this just is, if we can get some federal money, Windstream would be the recipient.
That's right. There's some federal money out there to build broadband. It needs to, obviously, grants to a public entity like the county. Windstream would be, you know, we'd sort of be a pass-through for Windstream to get that infrastructure here. Is that right, Christina?
Yes, that's exactly right. For this NTIA, a county government has to apply for the application. So what we'll do, me and Rhonda will work on here this week, is putting together the county's information, and then it gets turned over to Windstream. Windstream adds all of their information, and we apply for the grant together. So that's what this partnership agreement is that we're both applying together, because Windstream cannot get the money unless it's dedicated to a county. So that's what the county, when that application all the information gets back to me, we will go, I already have contacts for our NTIA specialists to walk me through inputting all this information for the application online, but the money will come through us, and that's how it'll be allocated. But there's been multiple phone conversations, emails, edits to things numerous times for everybody involved, that the county will not be out any money, that we will not match any money, we are not just going to offer up any extra funds or anything.
And I added that to that agreement.
Yes.
Just to make sure.
Yes.
One other thing, Christine, I noticed on the list of things is the county has to do is identify an authorized representative to sign documents.
Yes.
Does the board need to, I assume that'll be the chairman, right?
Well, that's what I was gonna put, was for the chairman, and I think it's 3 or 4, it says key personnel, and so, when I talked to Todd, it would be, Todd and then the vice chair, Mr. Doster, and those are just the 2 key personnel. It's really for them to have a point of contact with kind of what they're doing. It shows that we have responsible, educated, key personnel that can reciprocate the information being given from Windstream, and I think Mr. Doster and Mr. Higdon will be great candidates because they both have wonderful knowledge in engineering, broadband, all that information. So that's what that key personnel is, and then the authorized representative, I put Todd, that's what I was going to submit with Todd since he is the chairman.
And just one more thing, just so the board knows, in that agreement, if you didn't see it, if the grant's actually awarded, then they'll come back to you with an amendment to that agreement that sets out all the details.
Yes, and so that's what I laid out in front of you, what I left on your desk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, that's actually the Exhibit A to the, so, yeah, but that's just the federal guideline announcements.
Yes.
For the grant application.
Yeah.
But the way I read that agreement, if we get the grant, then there'll be a second document that comes back to you with all those details.
Right, and that's what I've understood from Ms. Dina Perry, with Windstream. But my concern with her is, and when I reached out to, Ms. Rhonda advised me to reach out to Mike about if any kind of agreement and any kind of funds are being presented, the board needs to know about it before we put the cart before the horse type of situation. So that's what this is. That's what this agreement is, and that's what she said too, that there will be an additional amendment with more legalities and specifics to that.
But we needed this first one approved by August 17th, which is the application deadline.
Right.
This will get the grant applied for, and if we get it, we'll be back.
All right. There's a partnership agreement with Windstream for the NTIA Broadband Infrastructure Partnership Program.
I make a motion. I saw how much Christine and others were working on trying to get it. I think it'd be good for the county if we can get it, so I make that motion.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to submit the application.
It was like the Olympics, we got
I'm gonna go alphabetic, random, say Adam.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Mr. Bruin?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for that. Put that application in. And
Thank you, Christine.
executive session,
Thank you,
discuss
Mike.
real estate, personnel, and potential litigation. Mr. Turner, do we have anything that we need to talk about?
No, sir.
All right. Last on the agenda is adjourned. Good night.
Yeah.